believe no one's going to really want to challenge Kamala. I don't believe. And then she'll pick a VP nominee. The Democratic Party bench is incredible. I have my own thoughts as to who that should be. It should be Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan, but it's not up to me. And then people are excited. I just got an email from a very well-known actress who said, me and all my friends are ready to go. They hadn't said anything about the Biden campaign all along. So I think people are going to be very, very fired up and ready to go.
Interesting. So people clearly already immediately excited, energized, and perhaps he has decided to withdraw just in the nick of time, 3 weeks before the Democratic convention, of course. And you mentioned Gretchen Whitmer there. I actually read out a statement from her just a short time ago. She is, of course, the governor of Michigan. I'm going to remind our viewers, seeing as you've mentioned her, Matthew, that she wrote, President Biden is a great public servant who knows better than anyone what it takes to defeat Donald Trump. His remarkable work to lower prescription drug costs, fix the damn roads, bring supply chains home, address climate change, and ensure America's...
Well, I will say this. Hello there, Arthur. You're the first one on. I was saying he was going to drop out, but most people on my live stream or in the comments were actually saying that he was going to stay. To me, based on my experience in following how the Democrats are, they typically push, and amp up the pressure to the point where whoever they're pressuring to do something has to bow down to the pressure or else. I was getting worried about Jim Crow Joe. I don't want him to be president, but I want him to be safe, so. So what do you think? So you think she's got a good chance, or? Well, we're just going to keep running here.
Global leadership over decades will go down in history. My job in this election will remain the same, doing everything I can to elect Democrats and stop Donald Trump, a convicted felon whose agenda of raising families' costs, banning abortion nationwide, and abusing the power of the White House
and welcome
to
everyone
his own scores
to this live stream.
Wrong for
Just
Michigan.
wanted to do this right now because it just came to my attention that Joe Biden has dropped out of the presidential race. Now it's on to Kamala Harris.
Kamala
You
Harris
guys, this is big news. I wanted to jump on real
this
quick.
Statement takes a very different
Jump on really quick here.
because
Thank you
of
guys
the
for
detail
joining
she
me.
goes in and her determination to stop Donald Trump. So, what if that was to be Kamala Harris's running mate, if indeed Kamala Harris was the nominee, what kind of team would they make? I know we're jumping way ahead here, but because you've said it, I want to pick your brains while we have you.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So first of all, Gretchen was already vetted in 2020, right? So some of the other people that Kamala will consider have not yet been vetted, and there's not a lot of time. There are a lot of great people, Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, Roy Cooper in North Carolina. There are lots of people that this could be. A lot of people will say to me, and often do, you can't have two women running in the United States. I don't believe that for a second. Gretchen has won a swing state twice. Literally nobody else can say that. Michigan borders on Wisconsin, another swing state. She's a fantastic campaigner. Abortion rights is just about the biggest issue aside from democracy in this campaign. I'm going to surprise you by telling you one thing, which is that in 2020 in the primaries, I campaigned for Kamala before I campaigned for Biden when he was becoming the nominee, because I believed so much that Kamala would be a great presidential candidate, and I still believe that. So I think that the idea for me would be not to do what Hillary Clinton did in 2016 and pick a bland white person as your running mate. I'd go all in, two women.
Thank you so
People
much,
would go
Arthur.
through the roof with excitement. That's what I would do. That's what I hope they do. I have no idea what they're going to do.
Well, our viewers heard it here first. Let's see if it comes to fruition. Matthew Lippman, thanks very much indeed for your unique insights, both into President Joe Biden and the woman he has endorsed to be the next president of the United States.
They're saying it's going to be Kamala Harris, possibly Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan. That would be two women.
Actually, before we do that,
never
I'm
been
just
done
going to
before.
bring you some information coming into
I
us
just don't
from
know
our
about that. I
sister
still feel like
station,
Donald Trump's going to be
NBC.
president.
It says President Biden told his senior team he had changed his mind about staying in the race at 1:45 p.m. today.
Okay, Jessica, you're
According to a
saying,
source with
thanks for
direct
joining,
knowledge,
Jessica.
the
You're saying the
message
Dems have a
last
mess
night
on their
had
hands. No
been
one likes their
full speed
policies.
ahead. And of
They
course, that is
basically are
what we've
likely
been
to
saying all evening,
fall
that
to the
this
bottom faster
announcement, although
than the
perhaps not
Titanic. Wow.
unanticipated, we
Which is
knew
fine for me. I mean,
perhaps it
I'm
was
going
coming.
for
The
Trump.
pressure was mounting. We have been keeping a tally here on Sky News
Hey
tonight.
there, Nina. How are
37
you?
Democrats calling on him to step down. But this
Thanks,
decision
Arthur.
seems
Thanks for being such a
very
supporter,
sudden,
Arthur.
and we are now learning that he only made that decision this afternoon, 1:45 p.m. US time. Let's bring in Charles Kupchan, former special assistant to President Obama and senior director for the European Affairs on the National Security Council in the Obama White House. Good evening to you, Charles Kupchan. Your analysis of what happened, because we understand that perhaps President Obama was also secretly concerned about President Joe Biden going ahead.
Yeah, I mean, let me just say that off the top, I have conflicting emotions. I'm saddened because I work closely with Biden. He's a great guy, and it's surely a difficult decision for him. But I also feel enormous relief because the Biden campaign was up against a tidal wave of voices, prominent Democrats,
savage,
prominent donors saying it's time to step aside, and now we can hit the ground running and run a serious campaign
Of course,
against
I believe that too,
Trump.
Frank.
You know, did Obama matter? Sure, but he was one of many voices that were speaking up. And so I think what we're
Javier, I
seeing
totally
here
agree
is a
with you.
tide
As
that
you
turned
said, that the Democrat
irreversibly
Party is
after
a
that
disgrace,
debate.
Trump 2024.
Biden has been listening carefully to his advisors. He's been looking at poll numbers that are getting worse and worse. I don't think he really had a choice.
He may not have had a choice, but do you think he did it at the right time, leaving it only to 3 weeks before the convention and a nominee being named?
You know, I think he did do it at the right time in the sense that it took him some time to arrive at this decision. He had, I'm sure, lots of tough discussions with Jill, his wife, and his family and his close advisors.
Nina.
But we now have a decent interval before the convention. I think it's very important that he came out and endorsed Kamala Harris. Why? Because the Democratic Party is not unified. There's a strong progressive wing. There's a strong centrist wing. If he had just said, okay, have at it, it could have become a free-for-all. I think what will happen now is that people will start rallying around Kamala Harris. There could well be a straw poll that's called by the Democratic National Committee to.
And I just want to say, guys, I just did a video on the fact that the Dems want Joe and Kamala to go. My videos are going to drop at 4 p.m., 6 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 4, 6, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So I want you guys to really watch out for them. Like, comment, share as soon as they drop, and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't already. I really appreciate that. Get me some more subscribers, please. Thank you. But I just dropped a video saying that the Democrat Party really wants both of them to go because Kamala is not a strong candidate, in my opinion. She is not strong. She is incompetent. She doesn't really answer questions appropriately. She doesn't have a good track record. You look at how she made her way up to the top in California. So I heard, you know, I tease about that, the rumors that go around about her and Willie Brown, you know, way to get a leg up, right? Or maybe 2 legs up. So yeah, I don't have a very strong opinion of Kamala Harris. Other than that, I don't think she's a good choice. She did not make a good VP. So she's not a good VP. How can she be a good president? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Her track record in California is terrible. So I did that video. I guess I'll let it stay, but that was before I found out that, you know, Jim Crow Joe was going to drop out of the race. I felt like he was going to, and I did say that last week that they want him to drop out by Monday. And so that actually happened because tomorrow was the deadline. So we're saying, all right. Yeah, Yes, Jessica, that's true. That's true. So, to me, she's not a good choice. But when you pick for the wrong reasons, when you pick, your candidates or whatever for the wrong reasons, you pick your running mate for the wrong reason. I did another video today saying that certain demographic requested that Jim Crow Joe select a certain type of female. I'll just go ahead and say it, a woman of color. And they don't, when they do this DEI stuff, I say it all the time, their focus is more on identity politics, on what a person looks like, their gender, ethnicity, orientation, is more focused on that rather than their actual merit. There are plenty of women who would do a great job, don't get me wrong, of course, but they should have gotten a better choice than her. She wasn't a good one. That's what they came up with, her. And her record, like you said, Jessica, in California with prisoners, she was locking Black people up left and right. And now she wants to pander to us and say she listens to Tupac while she's getting high. I don't get high, and I wasn't really a regular listener of Tupac. So that's just pandering and putting people in a box. We don't all act like that. That's a small minutia. And they were just very condescending and talk down to us. Democrats do that all the time. And for some reason, Black people, we still, for the most part, still vote Democrat. I don't personally, of course. You know where I stand. I believe in God, family, country. Hi, Jerry. Thank you so much. Listening from the Big Island. I appreciate you, Jerry. I really appreciate that. Oh, I would make a great president. Oh, and I listened to Greg Foreman of Black Conservative Perspective, but I am not getting into politics, because it's like when they go in, they look so much younger, and like a few years later, they look like it just wore the hell out of them. No, thank you. And then I'm a conservative, so I don't feel like getting death threats. No, thanks. But I would work in some other capacity. Oh, yes, LBJ. Yes, Catalia, God, family, country. I watched the RNC, and I've watched like the DNCs over the years and compare them to the RNC. And we just finished with the Republican National Convention. And, they were a lot about faith and family. And that's better than what I see from the Democrats. So I'm just going to continue to play this.
Make her the presumptive nominee before the convention in mid-August. You then have her ability to choose a running mate. They head into the convention with the presidential candidate, with the vice presidential candidate, and they're ready to go. And one other comment here. I think that J.D. Vance was an understandable pick for Trump, but it has left the center open. Trump was doubling down on appealing to the disaffected working class in the deindustrialized heartland. But picking J.D. Vance does not give him a lot of pull in those centrist, independent voters, moderate Republicans. I think this window of opportunity is one that we're going to see the Democrats capitalize on.
And a final word from you on your reflections, if you will, in about 30 seconds, please, on Joe Biden's legacy.
He took over a country that was deeply divided, and he got through enormously important legislation to get working Americans back up on their feet. Ukraine is still standing, a remarkable feat given Russian superiority. He repaired alliances around the world with Europe and Asia. I think he accomplished an enormous amount. He made a courageous yet difficult.
I have to pause this, guys, because he's trying to say that Joe Biden was a good president. He completed a lot of accomplishments. I don't think he was a good president. Inflation, the border, crime, you're overlooking American citizens for illegals. In my opinion, he was not a good president. You don't do that to your own citizens. You put us first. That's like taking care of people outside your home before you take care of people in your home. No one does that. No one in their right mind does that. I don't agree he was a good president. Interest rates went up through the roof. Everything went up under Joe Biden. What was supposed to go up went down. What's supposed to go down went up. So, it's my opinion. And I knew he was going to drop out. I told, an earlier commenter that these demon rats, Democrats, I call them demon rats, put the pressure on and they get what they want. And he's an older man, and I knew his family was in his ear, but those demon rats, all of them coming at you all at one time. And he's an older man, and he was supposedly getting rid of, the virus, which I don't believe that was the case. That I don't think, they lied to us. They don't really tell us. We can only know what we can know. I don't believe that that was why he was away, to get better from any illness like that. I think maybe he was just thinking about what to do, or was giving his family some last words or whatever. I don't think it had anything to do with that. Sin and corruption, and also, the whole twins thing, making sure that kids, he's all behind that whole twins thing. And Kamala Harris is more than likely going to continue in that vein, which is the real reason why I said I will never vote Democrat again, because they are for the most debaucherous, evil, satanic things. I constantly say they are anti-God, anti-American, anti-women, anti-babies, anti-Black people, anti-American, anti-everybody, anti-everyone. So that is how I feel about them at this point. The way they've treated us and sent all of that money overseas when you could have used that money to help your own citizens. There's no way I can justify even thinking about going that way when I go to vote in November. I'm not. Absolutely no way. I know where my vote is going. It's going to Trump and Vance. And how do you all feel about JD Vance? Oh, Becky says, okay, hi, Becky. Hi, Becky Guillory. He's gone. Hillary wants the nod. Oh, I can't stand her. Oh, I probably dislike her more than I do Kamala. Hillary, she had her chance. She's out. Yeah, absolutely. Anti-common sense, absolutely. The Democrat Party is also anti-common sense. So there was no way I could support them. And you think JD, Machine Code says JD is a great pick. Jessica says, I like JD. He's a good choice. And let's see. Yes. Okay, Joyce, you're saying, yes, Linda, that's what I'm talking about. They are terrible. They are terrible. They really are terrible. So I'm going to go back to the live here just a moment.
Difficult decision to pass the baton a few hours ago.
Charles Kupchan, former special assistant to President Obama. Thanks very much indeed for joining us on Sky News.
It is 3 o'clock here in Washington, 8 o'clock in the United Kingdom, and it is a momentous day in American politics. Within the last hour, Joe Biden has announced that he will not be contesting the next election. He was the overwhelming favorite of Democrat delegates. More than 90% of Democrat delegates had chosen him to lead the Democrats into that election. But following that debate, all sorts of questions over Joe Biden, over his mental capacity, over his fitness for another 4 years. And in the last hour, as I say, he has announced that he will end his candidacy for re-election, saying in a letter to fellow Americans, he said, it is in the best interest of my party and the country. He said, while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling the duties as president for the remainder of my term. And he says he will make a fuller statement in the coming days. David Blevins is here with me, and, well, frankly, an historic moment.
Yes, and when you have a moment without precedence in politics, people are very keen to hear what was going on behind the scenes, what led up to this. What we do know is that Joe Biden informed his senior team, we would assume that is the chief of staff and the campaign manager, at 1:45 Eastern time, 6:45 in the UK, that he had decided to leave the race. He has been isolated with his close advisors, with the First Lady, his wife Jill, in Delaware, of course, since he contracted COVID-19. But of course, this didn't come from nowhere. There has been quite the build up to this since that disastrous election debate, which really started the ball rolling, and it culminated earlier today with nearly 40 Democrats on Capitol Hill, senators, congressmen, congresswomen, calling on him to stand aside because they believe he was no longer capable of beating Donald Trump in the election.
Right, but it was the Nancy Pelosi's of this world, the Chuck Schumers of this world, the very senior
Nancy
Democrat
Pelosi and
figures.
Chuck Schumer. That'll do it. And so my nickname for Nancy Pelosi is the Wicked Witch of the West. She's from California. So thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much, Deck Man. Thank you. They're definitely swearing VP Harris on before November. Get ready because Dems are pretty predictable. Oh, of course. Dems, I just never realized, politics was so evil until like over the past year. I mean, it took me a long time to catch on to how wicked it. Well, I knew it before then because of what happened in history with JFK, which makes me think that what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania was a certain way. I don't want to put too much out there. I don't want to be censored, but I think that those commands to stand down, yeah, if that's correct, if those men and women were told to stand down, if that is what they were told, you know what that looks like, right? So I'm digressing on that point, but history hopefully will be recorded correctly. Okay, I'm hoping it will be. Vance Ramaswamy in 2028 and 2032 after. Okay, let me see. Vance and Ramaswamy, that might be okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So this is breaking news. This just happened like an hour and a half ago. An hour and a half ago, Jim Crow Joe decided to drop out of the presidential race. Joe Biden did. And I knew he would. And wow, I just wonder who do you think they're going to pick for Kamala Harris's running mate? Who is she going to pick? It's her choice. Who do you think she's going to pick? Valiant Thor says, Kamala Harris, please save yourself the embarrassment. I'm finding out that they can be. I don't put anything against the demon rats at this point. I really don't. They've done everything they could to Donald Trump. They tried to ruin his reputation, his character. Then that didn't work. They went to impeachments. That didn't work. And then they went to indictments. That didn't work because those cases are falling apart. And I believe ultimately will be dropped possibly by the Supreme Court. And then they tried to, what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. And he was in an interview with Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson said the impeachments didn't work. What if the indictments don't work? Aren't you afraid that they're going to unalive you? And Donald Trump gave his signature. Donald Trump answered. He said, these people are evil. These people are sick. So that's just how he is, like a hard nose. But yeah, I'm sure. Oh, AOC or Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett was the one that got into that little argument or big argument with Marjorie Taylor Greene. It was like watching an episode of, I don't know, the Jerry Springer show, the congressional form of the Jerry Springer show. I mean, it was horrible. Blonde butch body comments and fake eyelash comments. They were acting like children. They really were acting like children, even though I like Marjorie Taylor Greene. So Valiant Thor says, at this juncture, my skepticism extends to both Republicans and the majority of Democrats. It appears akin to a WWE wrestling spectacle. Yes, Joyce. You know what they tried to do now. I got to be careful. So when I talk like, why don't she just say it? I want you guys to understand what it's like being a conservative on certain platforms. And you just have to work around, and you guys, I give you these looks like, what they tried to do. And I'm so thankful, that Donald Trump is okay. I really, really am. I'm so, so grateful. But I'm going to go back to this so I can stop ranting. And you guys, I just want to ask you kindly to really get my videos out as much as you can, please. like, comment, share. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Click the notification bell. Some of you have been complaining that your comments are being removed. Just keep trying to comment. Make sure your notifications are working, because I pretty much every day except Saturday, but all the other 6 days of the week, I put up a video at 4, 6, and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's when I put up my videos.
Was the absence of any ringing endorsement for Joe Biden from Barack Obama. It was these things that, in the end, made it impossible for him to carry on, would you say?
Yes, and we've had lots of responses so far from people perhaps who still have aspirations of becoming the Democratic candidate in this election. We've not heard so far, to the best of my knowledge, from the former President Barack Obama, from the former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. And despite the heave that was going on against Joe Biden, it did appear for a while that he was going to bunker down. He was going to stay in the race. And sources close to him were suggesting that was about a very old grudge, because you and I remember very well, back in 2016, he was overlooked for the nomination. Barack Obama instead backed Hillary Clinton. What happened? Donald Trump ended up in the White House. And from that day to this day, Joe Biden has blamed Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and people like Nancy Pelosi, who was Speaker at the time, who had previously been a long-time friend and ally, for putting Donald Trump into the White House. And he was sure that would not have happened if he had been the candidate back then. So he was determined that he should remain on the ticket to beat Donald Trump. But obviously the pressure became too much at some point, and he has today decided he's going to bow out.
Yeah, I brought you the details of the letter that he issued. He's also tweeted, and it's interesting what he says in the tweet as well. He says, "My fellow Democrats, I've decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made." And then he goes on to say, "Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement to Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats," he said, "it's time to come together and to beat Trump. Let's do this." So following the letter, the tweet, some choreography clear here.
That's what they have going, guys. That's what they have.
Yes, and that is a clear attempt, I think, to
Kamala
bring to an end
Harris.
the infighting that has been laid bare within the Democratic Party over the last couple of weeks. Kamala Harris has had a remarkable
they're
journey.
looking
She
at
is,
Gretchen
of course, the
Whitmer
first
of
South Asian
Michigan
American
for
woman and the
VP.
first Black American woman to hold the office of Vice
Yes,
President. She's now, it
Jean
would appear,
Gibbons. They're
to
looking
be
at
the
Gretchen
case in the
Whitmer
running
and some
to
other
move
people,
from
but that's the
being
name that
the
sticks out to me.
40,
Some of them other last name are Shapiro also.
49th Vice President to being potentially the 47th President. That would be an historic development.
Valiant
And
Thor,
we
I
shouldn't
totally
really
agree
be
with you.
surprised by that. Joe Biden will want that to be part of his legacy, bearing in mind that he appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and he has always championed the rights of the African-American community.
But it does not mean that it will be a coronation, does it? Because they will.
Okay, I gotta stop him. He said the anchor said Joe Biden has always championed the rights of African Americans. Wow. Have they looked back at his history? That man that's why I call him Jim Crow Joe. He was a segregationist. Okay. He did not want his kids going to school in a racial jungle. Kamala Harris called him out on it when she was running against him in 2020. And he was against busing. And I did a video on all his racist comments over the decades. He said he was going to get people hanged for any and everything except jaywalking. Every crime bill, which was proportionately discriminatory towards Black men, every crime bill, even Jim Crow Joe said, had his name on it, Joe Biden. He hasn't really done anything for Black people except lock us up and pander. And the media is complicit in hiding it and trying to make Trump look worse. So now people are like, I'm just going to vote for the lesser of two evils. They make Trump look worse. They make Trump look like AH from World War II Germany. You know who I'm talking about. So, yeah, he did not do anything for African Americans. That is ridiculous. That is preposterous to say. He just said, Democrats make their business to say they're going to do something and they actually never do it. Okay, they actually don't do anything ever. Donald Trump did do what he said he was going to do. And he could have done a lot more if they would have just let the man alone. Just leave him alone. You tried everything. Leave him alone. Just prepare for the next time when it's in 2028. Just prepare for then at that time and leave the man alone. What do you guys have to say about that? You think they're going to still give Donald Trump a hard time? I believe he's going to win the presidential election. And what do you think that they're going to be doing the next time? Or you think they're just going to give it up because they've tried everything just about? They really just about tried everything. They really have. Well, Valiant Thor, I do want to say on your prior comment, Valiant Thor, that I believe you're the one that said we're in a spiritual war and it's going to increase, leading up to the election. Of course, it is very much going to increase. And I'm not sure what they're going to do. I don't know what they're going to do as far as yes, God knows the truth, Joyce. He really does. And the reason that the media they protect the Democrats is because the Democrats control the media. The Democrats control Hollywood, the media, the music industry, the public school system. They do. And a lot of forms of media. So, and even, Democrat owned places. Well, I should say PolitiFact and Fact Check. If you notice, they always say Donald Trump is lying. But when I looked into it, Donald Trump was telling the truth. So something in the milk is not clean. The Democrats, the demon rats, control just about everything. So they control the narrative. And so they have people thinking that the Republicans are the bad guys. You can't convince them anything different if they're the kind that's too lazy to do research and they just depend on what the news is telling them. So, yeah, the demon rats control a lot of things because if you look at it, they're the party that is having the drag queens come into the schools. They promote the trans movement in their policy, their political policy, their legislation. And they have the college students all in an uproar on the college campuses. So, and you notice if you look at media like television shows and movies, that's pushed in the entertainment area as well. And it is pushed in the music. So the same thing, and you might think, well, that's just a sign of the world. It is a sign of the world, but it's the Democrat Party that's doing it. So I just, that's my belief anyway, based on the similarities between all those 4 or 5 areas that I just gave. Yes. Yes. Sorry, getting a call here. All right, let me go ahead and keep playing this for you guys.
Will be those in the party. There are already those in the party who are saying we need a contest.
Yes, and one of the reasons I think that he will be trying to shut down the debate within the party at this stage by rowing in behind Kamala Harris is because there is potential for a very ugly convention still for the Democrats in August if they decide that it shouldn't be a coronation, that Kamala Harris has to win it in her own right and has to own it in her own right. If that happens, then perhaps we're going to see a parade of potential candidates within the party lined up because now that Joe Biden has dropped out, those 90+ % of delegates who are legally obliged, pledged to support him in the convention, are released from that pledge.
I mean, it's something like 3,900 delegates. Are they released from the pledge if Joe Biden says, I want to endorse Kamala Harris? Because that's effectively the same ticket, but Kamala Harris running things now.
I think you're asking a question that they will be asking themselves tonight because we are in uncharted territory. The Democratic National Committee has been constantly revising its rules, has been thinking about how to proceed. Yeah. Until today, they were saying it's business as usual, we're proceeding as usual. But you would expect them to say that because to do otherwise would weaken Joe Biden's position as president. And it is interesting that while he is stepping down as the candidate, he is absolutely remaining in the office of President of the United States. And we've already heard from J.D. Vance, of course, Donald Trump's running mate, that he felt if Joe Biden left the ticket, he needed to leave the White House.
I know, Joyce, I feel the same way.
If he's not fit to stand as the candidate for another 4 years, is he fit to be the president of the country for another 4 months?
David, stay where you are. We're joined now by Lindy Lee, who is a Democratic strategist and donor. And thank you very much for being with us, Lindy. And we spoke on the NewsHour just a couple of days ago about all this, and you said that you hoped that Joe Biden would find a way to stand aside and that you hoped that he would endorse Kamala Harris. Well, it seems you have got what you wanted.
That's amazing. Yeah, actually, I endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris this morning on Fox for an exclusive one-on-one interview. And then an hour later, I find that the president has done the same. So I'm just in shock right now that it all happened and happened so quickly. And I'm getting messages from donors around the country, and they're uniformly relieved.
And I am going to have to cut this live stream short. I do apologize. But you guys, thank you all so much for joining me. I just wanted to make sure I got this information out while it is still hot, while it is very much still hot. And I kindly ask all of you right now to please go watch my videos today. They drop at 4, 6, and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So they'll be dropping today, Sunday through Friday. I drop videos at 4, 6, and 8 p.m. Eastern. I don't really drop videos on Saturday. I typically take that day off unless something is breaking, like the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Then I had to do a live. That's because that was just extenuating circumstance. And if I do drop a video on Saturday, it will be 9 p.m. Eastern. I try to take that off as my Sabbath day of rest. But all the other 6 days, 4 p.m., 6 p.m., 8 p.m. Eastern, dropping today at those times. Thank you guys for joining me and supporting me. It really means so much. I'm on my way to 40,000 subscribers. So guys, the news is Joe Biden is out. He has endorsed Kamala Harris, and we have to wait and see who her VP pick is going to be. And that's all I have for today. Well, love God, your families, these United States of America. And as I always say, march on, warriors. Bye, everybody. Thank you guys for joining me. It really means a lot.